Whenever you're ready, we'll do 3.
And this is City File number 25-902-00054 to review of a certificate of appropriateness application for an addition at 2763 3rd Avenue North, a contributing property in the local historic district. The owners are Christopher Nadeau and Susan Dixon. The agent listed is Heather Morrison of Revolution Contractors LLC, and the staff planner is Cindy Kohanek.
All right, hello again. This project is a COA review for 2763 3rd Ave North. No public comments were received for this project. The property is a contributing resource located in the southwest central Kenwood Local Historic District. There are 2 structures on site, a single-family residence at the front and a single-story detached accessory building behind that. This Tudor Revival-style house was constructed in 1938 along with a 1-car garage. The house could be considered minimal traditional due to the more compact massing, some of the details, and the time frame of construction. Aluminum siding was added to the house in 1973. This COA request is for the new construction of a 1-story frame addition measuring 18.5 by 20.2 feet on the rear of the house. A vertical trim board is being utilized for differentiation between the existing and proposed addition. Proposed materials include ply-gem vinyl siding, an aluminum door, and vinyl single-hung windows. Trim and other details are to match the existing house. This slide shows the proposed elevations for the addition. A new door will be added to the left or west side near the rear of the existing house, as indicated in the image here. There's a minor roof pitch increase on the shed roof on the side of the north elevation in order to accommodate a new beam. This was not noted in the staff report. However, using aerial images, this section of the structure appears to date between 1990 and 1994, thus is non-historic. The applicant is seeking vinyl siding to match, at least in part, what exists on the house, which appears to be a mix of aluminum and vinyl. Staff was unable to locate a permit for the vinyl siding to determine when it was added, but the aluminum siding permit dates back to 1973. Both types of siding were likely installed over the original wood siding, and as such could be removed in the future to reveal the original material. This will not be the case for the addition if approved as proposed with the vinyl siding. Best practices are for any new additions to be clad in wood or a smooth cementitious lap siding in an exposure to match either the existing or the original siding, so that if the existing siding is removed and the original wood lap siding restored, the cladding on the addition would be more compatible with the original material. The existing and proposed vinyl siding have a faux wood grain, which is not considered appropriate since it is a material that is imitating another material. Smooth siding and trim should be utilized for the addition, and staff is not aware of any previous approvals for vinyl siding by the commission. Any paired windows should be separate windows with the appropriately sized mulls between them. Typically that's a 4 to 5 inch mull to match those found on the main house. The small window on the east elevation should be modified to a casement or similar single light window, or the height increased or the width decreased so that the sash are square or more vertically oriented. The original house's windows on the house were 6/1 colonial style. Right now there's a 1/1 and 6/1 grids between glass are present. The design guidelines depict a 6/1 window configuration as a standard for Tudor Revival, and both the 6/1 and 1/1 window configurations are shown as standard window configurations for the minimal traditional. Technical guidance and case studies from the National Park Service offer that the new addition should be differentiated from the main. The 1/1 windows would be a way to further differentiate the original. However, there are also 1/1 windows on the existing main structure. Any future replacement windows on the original portion of the house, staff would typically require that they be replaced with the 6/1 to match the original in a simulated divided light or an exterior grid configuration, because we do have documentation on the original windows there. The 2 windows on the rear elevation appear to match the size of the existing window on the east elevation in the drawings. However, the actual window in real life appears to be taller than what is drawn. Clarity is needed on whether these windows will match the existing window or as drawn. As drawn, the window sash appear to be a bit horizontally oriented rather than the square or vertical that is typical. Best practice would be to match the existing historic window size on this. Window trim appears to have been modified or covered by the existing siding, but a projecting sill is still evident on the windows on the main house. Standard window trim of a 3 to 4 inch casing and projecting sill should be used on the addition. Windows and doors should be installed to be recessed 2 inches to the top sash. To differentiate the new addition foundation from the historic foundation, the addition should be a standard painted concrete block instead of the panel face block found on the original portion of the house and shown in detail here. In summary, staff evaluation yields that most of the relevant criteria were met for the granting of a certificate of appropriateness, for the guidelines for new construction, and for the guidelines for alterations. Thus, staff recommends approval with conditions for the proposed addition as listed here, which includes items noted in all these previous slides that we talked about, as well as the standard conditions for approval, which are the last 4 on here. And that is the staff presentation. Thank you for time, and the applicant and owner are here as well.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? I'm Jeremy Wharton with Revolution Contractors. This is the homeowner, Susan Dixon. We've also got our office manager, Heather Morrison, who has been involved in the application process. So this is an addition. It's a master bedroom.
Would you mind
bath.
quickly just stating your address for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
I'm Susan Dixon. I'm the property owner at 2763 3rd Avenue North.
Great.
And I'm Jeremy Wharton, 758 34th Avenue South.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry.
No problem, sorry. So this is going to be a master bedroom bathroom addition for Susan and her husband, Chris. They've got 2 small kids, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, so God bless them. We feel like it's a fairly thoughtful addition. They border right along 28th, so it's a fairly high traffic street. They do have a privacy fence. The addition isn't really visible. It's fairly inconspicuous from the traffic from the right of way. And then in the alley, it's mostly obscured by the garage. So from a line of sight point of view, it doesn't strike us as something that's out of context with the neighborhood. All of the staff recommendations we've already incorporated into a revision that I think maybe just hasn't worked its way through yet. But in terms of the siding, we are more than happy to not put vinyl siding on anything in the whole world. So we have already shifted that to putting hardy on. We had put that originally on to try and match what was there, the vinyl. So switching that to hardy, the window changes have already been made. The moles have already been widened to full framing moles. The thin casement window has already been shifted. I believe everything has already been revised. So in terms of complying with the staff's recommendations, we're fully on board with it and ready to rock and roll. What else? Anything else?
That's all.
All right.
Thank you. So now we will move into public hearing. Did we receive any comment cards?
No, Madam Chair, no cards.
All right, great. Cross-examination.
City staff waves.
Great. Does the applicant have any cross for the city staff?
We do not.
Okay. Does city staff have any closing statements?
Nope, city staff waves.
Do you have any closing statements?
No. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. So now we will break into executive session. I don't have any issue with the conditions set forth in the staff report, and I think that it very clearly the applicant has taken, responsibility and seen all of them and feels really good about it. So I don't have any discussions or comments on items 1 through 11, and I'm moving towards approval with conditions.
It's a very sensitive addition. It's very compatible with the existing home, and it seems funny that sometimes you want to match existing and other times you don't want to match existing, but I think the 3 different siding applications will kind of show the 3 different vintages of your home. So definitely appreciate you making the changes and complying with the conditions. So, yeah. Okay.
Do we have any other comments? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion for this agenda item?
I'll make a motion. I'll move approval of the certificate of appropriateness with the outlined conditions 1 through 11 in the staff report.
Do we have a second?
Second.
ready for a vote.
Marve?
Yes.
Magnello?
Yes.
Carrasco?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Wanamaker?
Yes.
Michaels?
Yes.
And that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay. And the next item is City File Number 25-902-00057. The request is a review of a Certificate of Appropriateness application for roof replacement with the material change at 3650 Foster Hill Drive North, the Foster Grove House, a local historic landmark. The owners are Gregory Tappan and Keith Weiler. The agent is Gerald Garvin and Jeremy Wood with Garvin Metal Roofs, and the city staff planner is Cindy Kohanic. Wait, sorry, here we go.
All right, hello again. This project is a COA review for 3650 Foster Hill Drive North. 3 public comments were received and included in the meeting packet. There we go. All right. 3650 Foster Hill Drive North, or the Foster Grove House, is a designated local historic landmark. The property was designated in 2018 by the current homeowners. The Foster Grove House was originally constructed around 1904 as a 2-story rectangular frame building with wood siding on the site of the Foster Orange Grove. The original Grove House was outside the city at the time it was built, so records are few. The house was heavily altered by Cade Allen around 1922 into the stucco-clad structure seen today. The predominant architectural style that was listed in the designation report is eclectic Mediterranean revival with some prairie-style elements. As with other Cade Allen houses, this house is a mix of styles. The accessory buildings on site include a hip roof garage and a smaller hip roof structure with a glass block bar. Were built after 1926, and an addition was added to the house in 2009 on the northwest side. Besides the hip roof accessory structures, there are 2 other low-slope shed roof structures on site. These appear to be a shed and a carport, which have 5 V-crimp roofs, which can be seen on the Google Street View images here. The COA request is for a roof replacement on the main and accessory buildings from asphalt shingle to standing seam metal roofs. The roofs involved in the project are indicated on the stars in the image shown here. While the COA application lists only the main house roof, the building permit and other documentation provided support that the entire main roof, including the addition, as well as the 2 roofs on the hip roof accessory buildings, will be replaced. The standing seam metal roof proposed in the application is a mill finish with a striations panel rib. The proposed metal roof has a 1.5-inch high seam. Venting will be accomplished through a combination of easy bar vents, ridge vents, and gooseneck vents. Verification is needed that no other work is involved, since strip edges and other minor repair replacement are typically involved in re-roofing projects. The original roof material for the Grove House is not known. The symbology on the 1951 Sanborn fire insurance map shown here indicates that the roof was a composition roof. This was likely a tar and gravel or other combustible shingle made of a combination of materials. The word tile indicated on the structure in this map was actually in reference to the building material for the structure, so like the body of the building. In the St. Petersburg Times advertisement from July 28, 1931, which is also shown here, the roof appears to be a shingle roof. There are no telltale bumps or ridges that would be evident for either a tile or the seamed or crimped metal roof. Permit records for the house do not indicate anything other than a shingle roof or built-up roofs for the flat sections. The asbestos shingle roof was documented in the 1996 Florida Master Site file. And the roof on the main structure can also be seen in the 1987 St. Petersburg Times image, which was shown earlier on slide 3. The hip roll seen in that image was an option for the finishing of an asbestos roof, and this hip roll finish was also present on other examples for asbestos roofs in St. Pete. Permit records do not appear to address the shed roof structures with the 5 V-crimp roofs. And while the existing asphalt roofs on these buildings do not consist of historic material, a type of shingle roof has been on the main house since at least 1931 and likely as far back as the Cade Allen remodel. The shingle roof type is thus a historic roof type for this house. Kate Allen mostly appears to have built masonry houses with tile, flat built-up roofs, or a slate or wood shingle, or a combination of these roofs for the houses that he built in Allendale and beyond. There is no documentary evidence that the original roof on the 1904 to 1922 farm or grove house was metal. Even if there was, that house is essentially no longer evident under all the Kate Allen renovations and is for the most part no longer recognizable. Replacing the roof with something that may have been on the original house is essentially conjectural and generally not considered appropriate. With few exceptions, like in some of the Roser Park houses, historic metal roofs do not appear to be prevalent in any of the St. Petersburg local historic districts or on landmark structures. The change in material, design, and finish for the roof will have an impact on the property since the appearance will change. The St. Petersburg design guidelines state that a roof is a prominent and character-defining feature of a historic house and is characterized not only by the cladding materials, but also by the framework's shape, slope, orientation, and color. There are other options for roof replacement available on the market other than the standing seam metal. An asphalt roof is readily available, as well as synthetic shingles or metal shingles that more closely mimic the existing asphalt shingle. Some of these alternative options may or may not be considered appropriate for replacement by the commission. The image here is another Kate Allen house. This is at 1020 41st Avenue North. This property is not a designated local landmark and has had the roof changed to a standing seam metal roof in 2005. Originally, a barrel tile roof was on this house, which is depicted in the 2002 image from St. Pete Times. In summary, the staff evaluation yields that most of the relevant criteria were not met for the granting of a COA, nor for the guidelines for alterations. As such, staff recommends denial for the COA review for the replacement of the roof for 3650 Foster Hill Drive North or the Foster Grove House, based on a determination of general inconsistency with Chapter 16 City Code of Ordinances and inconsistency with the design guidelines. That concludes staff's presentation. Staff is here for any questions, and the applicant and owner are present.
I get a remote, don't I?
Do you need our names?
Names and address, please.
Okay. I'm Gregory Tappan. I'm one of the owners of 3650 Foster Hill Drive North.
Jeremy Wood, representative of GMR Metal Roofs and Construction, 925 60th Street South, Gulfport, Florida. Good morning, or afternoon, I'm sorry. The benefits of standing seam, I've been here in front of this board before. I appreciate your guys' opportunity to make a great improvement on Mr. Geckin's house. That job is done over next to that Boyd Park over there. It's beautiful. He's happy. Thank you guys for your consideration on that. Mr. Tappan got referred to us through a mutual friend, and we gave him his options on everything that we could do, and they selected a standing seam roof. So I'm here to hopefully ask you guys and give you the benefits of the standing seam roof, so over top of an asphalt shingles. So benefits of a metal roof, these are all legitimate things. Better wind performance, longer lifespan. It's lighter than asphalt shingles, less fallout of performance over time. It does not weather. It does not, your insurance company is not going to make you change your roof in 10 years. Re-roof cost, better insurability, increases and retains the home values. We're not looking at this as, we have to come with modern times. You know, they just said that in 1931 it was a shingle type roof, but in 1996 it was an asbestos roof. I've been roofing for 20 years and grew up on old houses in upstate New York and old dairy farms. Asbestos lasts 100 years. We just can't do it anymore because people keep dying from it. So I imagine in 1996 that roof was taken from an asbestos shingle, which was a diamond shingle at the time, and put it into an asphalt shingle, which asphalt shingles were not made in 1901 and 1904 when the stuff was built. So it is listed as a prairie home, and with a prairie home, prairies, you think of a metal building and metal barns. It's a very low slope roof. I don't think you're going to see too much of the design characteristics change. As far as why Mr. Tappan is looking at this asphalt shingles, and I included the product approvals and everything. The asphalt shingle has no wind resistance. He has hard times getting insurance on historic homes already with carriers. When you put a metal roof, it's going to increase the value, it's going to increase his assurability on the property, and it's going to help him maintain that home and not have to be able to live in that home and never have to do this again. We want to protect that structure with a better metal roof. That metal roof will go ahead and be rated at 180 miles an hour, 180 mile an hour compared to an asphalt shingle. They don't even list their negative pounds per square foot in their product approvals. They're the only manufacturer that does not have to list a negative pounds per square foot in their product approvals for some reason. Now, as far as warranties and protecting this home, shingle warranties are prorated. Most of them only cover material costs. All shingle warranties have an act of God clause. So everybody says, I'll give you a GAF shingle, you get a 120 mile an hour wind warranty. If the roof blows off, GAF is not writing Mr. Tappan a check and saying, hey, your roof blew off, it was installed the product. They're going to say, nope, it's an act of God. So you have no protection from that manufacturer when you look at warranties. Metal warranty on that roof is 20 years, 25 years non-prorated, no act of God exclusions. All of this was submitted to you guys in our application. My biggest thing is this. With the insurance key points, there is a beautiful packet in there, observation building performance of this. This is where it shows you everything in jurisdiction of what needs to get done with what's going on in the inside of the insurance industry and inside of how much stuff is insurable. It's also attached in there. Asphalt shingles, we put another asphalt shingle on that. If that shingle is over 5 years old, there's a better one right here. The metal performance from Hurricane Ian to protect that structure. None of that's in yellow. When we look at shingles, all the yellow numbers during Hurricane Ian, if a roof was 3 to 5 years old, at 42% of those buildings got hurt. If it was over 12 years old, 63% of those buildings got damaged. We want to protect this structure. This is proven from an independent insurance counsel that the metal is going to help us protect this structure, and we don't have to be doing this over and over and over again. We don't want to make a lateral movement. We want to make a home improvement to protect this house. And that's what we're asking for. Metal roofs are far superior. They've been in buildings since the 1800s. Asphalt shingles have been around since like 1980s when the original architectural shingles came out. You know, we're looking at making this house insurable. We're making it a home improvement, not a lateral movement. And I will conclude and let Mr. Tappan explain what he would like to do. I have full copies of all the documentation with the wind uplifts and the warranties, if anybody would like to read them, if you didn't get a chance during your thing. So thank you very much.
I'm Greg Tappan. Keith Weiler and I are the owners of 3650 Foster Hill Drive North. I'm a little sick. My voice isn't great. I'm very nervous. This has been a very stressful process, so pardon me for that. The last time I was here was when we were seeking the historic designation on the property. We did that to protect it, mainly because of what was going on in Allendale at the time with the development and tearing properties down on bigger lots like ours, putting up more than one house. We wanted this house to outlast us. We wanted it to be around and be protected far longer than us. When we bought it in 2008, it was a hoarder house. It was infested with fleas and termites and roaches, and every room was packed to the top with junk. We have literally poured our blood, sweat, and tears into this house. We are preservation minded. We have maintained all 44 of our 1922 windows. I've personally reglazed, painted, and fixed every single one at some point, and we've worked really hard to maintain this house in its 1922 iteration and preserve all the historic material. It's kind of ironic to me that the designation we put in place is the thing that now feels like it's threatening us. We got our insurance premium last year. It was $16,000. I'm sure a lot of you can relate or have heard similar stories. We have talked to our insurance carrier, and this type of roofing will give us a very, very significant discount and will allow us to be able to maintain our homeowner's insurance on the property. All of our neighbors have written, well, neighbors on both sides and one neighbor down the street have written letters of support. And those neighbors, that's in your packet, but I also have copies. Those neighbors are informed. I have shared with them the roofing type. They know what it is. They are not worried about glare. They're not worried about appearance. They support us completely in what we're trying to do. Hurricane Milton was the first time we ever evacuated, and we didn't really worry about flooding because we're in Allendale and we know we're high ground. We worried a lot about our roof. and if it would hold. And it was a really restless night, being far away and wondering what was going to happen. We kind of dodged a bullet, but we're a little too nervous to just keep dodging the bullet. My husband is having a surgery, a very serious one, in about a week. That's going to take him out of work for 6 months and maybe make it impossible for him to go back to his job as an occupational therapist. So we're looking at losing an income. We're looking at through-the-roof insurance costs that we're trying to reduce. And we're trying to protect and preserve and harden this house against storms. I also want to make the point that we would never do anything that would severely alter the appearance of the home. Our roof is a very low hip roof, and the roof structures as seen in that presentation by city staff are not very visible from most points, and you really don't see a lot of the roofing material. It's also completely reversible. We're removing nothing historic. We're not taking any historic material away. We are not significantly altering the design or the appearance of the home, and this is intended to preserve it and protect it long after we're gone. This moment is literally a decision point for us if we can stay or go. Can we stay in this home? Can we feel secure? Can we feel safe? Can we reduce our insurance costs and keep maintaining it? Or do we need to look at other options and leave? It just doesn't make sense to us to spend the money on another asphalt shingle roof when we know in 10 to 12 years the insurance companies will be wanting us to replace it again. It's likely to fail in the types of storms that we're getting. And we just don't want to be like resetting the clock on a roof every 10 to 12 years. So we appreciate your consideration on this. And in closing, I just want to say old buildings, old homes need to evolve. They need to be allowed to adapt to current conditions and things like climate change. And they need to be able to evolve with new building materials while maintaining the historic integrity. We would never do something to jeopardize that. We are simply looking to make this home sustainable for us and preserve it for long after we're gone. Thank you.
I know we received the public comments with the application. Did we receive any green comment cards?
No blue comment cards.
Okay. Does city staff have any cross-examination for the applicant?
City staff waives.
Okay. The applicant does, we'll just have two quick things. Does the applicant have any cross-examination for city staff? Okay.
We'll waive.
Does city staff have any closing arguments for the applicant?
Just a few points. The Prairie School style house is actually, it's kind of a Midwestern Frank Lloyd Wright product. It's not necessarily meant to be kind of like a Grover farmhouse or prairie type house. That was mentioned by the applicant. Asphalt shingle was available prior to the 1980s. It was not in the architectural shingle format that we see currently. You're looking at 3-tab shingles prior to that. And that's essentially all I had.
Does the applicant have any closing statements?
No, I think I've said everything. Just we're trying to harden the home, preserve it long after we're gone, and make it affordable and safe for us to stay.
The one thing that I did like that Mr. Tappan says is we're going to put on a metal roof. If 10 years down the road, if a new owner wants to come in there and put back an asphalt shingle roof on it, we can do it. We're not touching the structure. I have no problem being a contractor and somebody coming and telling me tear off my work and put on something lesser quality. I'll do it in 10 years. I'll do it tomorrow if somebody asks me to do it. So, I mean, we're not changing the structure. We're just trying to harden the home. And it is reversible in 10 years down the road if somebody chooses to do that. But as technology changes, as building code changes, and as our weather changes, and insurance and taxes, we've got to do something to make this sustainable. And that's what we're asking to do, is to let the homeowners have their home and let it be sustainable so they can stay there, so we can do this and make sure that home doesn't have the roof blow off and shingles do in 5 years, and the next thing you know, you have all of that beautiful work on the inside of that structure is all waterlogged, and you can't get a person to show up for another 6 months. And you got its tar pit, and the water's coming in. I mean, so we want to protect this structure. So that's all I'd ask. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to move into executive session. I'll just make a quick statement. Do you have empathy for your situation, understanding, you know, it's come up before the hurricanes? I know every single person in this room was impacted. I understand the emotion, and I'm sorry for what is going on with your family too and your husband. I did have some comments as someone with a historic home that's not designated and an asphalt roof that I put on myself 3 years ago. There are different manufacturers of asphalt tiles. There are different roofing companies, and there's different ways of application that do secure. There's different types of sealants that go on top of decking, replacing decking and maintaining structure. And in my experience, I went through the storms with that structure with a 5-year-old roof with no issues. And that's just something I want to say. I know that you mentioned the manufacturer of one, but there are various manufacturers, and I did also look up about when asphalt shingles came out, and that's 1903 is when asphalt shingles were invented. So I'm just going to leave that and open this up to other comments as well. So unfortunately, we're in executive session right now, but we may have questions, so just stand by.
Okay. So for high wind resistance and hurricane protection, asphalt shingles with a Class H rating can withstand 150 mile-per-hour winds. There are also impact-resistant shingles with a Class 4 rating that are very resistant to flying debris. There are high-quality shingles on the market, as our chair just mentioned, approved for use in hurricane zones, warranted by the manufacturer, and insured by the insurance industry, that when installed by a qualified contractor can last a very long time. If this were a non-contributing structure in one of our historic districts, then I might support this application. But this home is a unique, standalone local landmark, and a roof material change will diminish its overall historic character. So for this and for the other reasons I stated, I will not be able to support this application.
I have a question. First, thank you for taking the effort to make your home a historic home to preserve the community. As being someone who was born and raised in St. Petersburg, I appreciate it. Your home is beautiful. I have a question because I remember you, when you say you were here before with the type of roof, the type of tiles that you had, didn't you have a product that had the same look, the coating as the asphalt? And
They do make a stone-coated steel shingle that does look like an asphalt shingle. It has a little bit more definition in it because it's made out of metal. It's costly, which is one of the issues why Mr. Tappan, it's costly. I mean, it's something that we can always, it's something we have to discuss, but it's a cost prohibitive thing with this application. And that's why we're trying to get within means. I'd love to spend $1 million on my house too, but I don't have it. We have to live within our means. We don't have bottomless pockets like others. So we do, that is an option. And there is other options for asphalt shingles. The biggest benefit is with a metal roof, no matter what, your longevity does not decrease over time. Like your roof is 5 years old in shingle and it withstands, but in 7 to 10 years, it's starting to have problems. So now you have to redo it. In 12 years, you can't get insurance. So a 5-year-old roof is great. A 5-year-old car is great. You don't need the warranty. On a 10-year-old car, when you got to go replace that car in 10 years, it's costly. So there are options out there for the stone-coated steel. It's just a costlier option for Mr. Tappan.
so that product would be more than the roof, the product
Than the standing seam, yes, it's a more costly product.
We did review it. It was about 20% more.
Okay.
I have a question for the city staff. So I'm trying to remember, we approved, after they came back, we approved the barrel tile metal, right? Did we not?
Yes, you did.
We're in executive session. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just saying that could be an option for this roof. If it's already been approved.
So staff did a little bit more research. This chart is previous metal roofs, and the second one down. The Custer Moore house is the one that was approved. It was a clay barrel tile, and then went to a stone-coated metal tile.
So it's that product he was talking about. Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
I was saying across the street's a barrel tile, so you go to that. Yeah, the standing seam is not.
I'm torn on this. Having spent the last couple of days building barriers for my house for the possibility of another flood this summer, as timely as it can get. But, on the other hand, we do have criteria before us, and the application, meets 1 out of 5 criteria in the case of general, and 1 out of 6 in the case of alterations. I mean, it's just so overwhelming there. We do have the case of the barrel tile that came before that was just mentioned, and I supported that, but to me, the change here from the existing roof material to a metal tile is just a stark change. I mean, that is much bigger than what the action that the commission took before. I appreciate the input here of Commissioner Wanamaker. She presented some facts here about tile material that would withstand the challenges of our current climate change weather, and I appreciate that. I think that I'll consider that very carefully. Thank you.
So I have a follow-up question. Were the options that the commissioner previous stated about the similar tiles that would withstand, was there any research done on that, and would that cost be?
The pre-existing tiles that were what? Oh, the stone-coated steel?
No, the Commissioner Wanamaker, the asphalt tiles that she said that would be.
So your asphalt shingles are all going to be classified as an asphalt shingle to the insurance companies, and also to, every shingle manufacturer is going to have a proration of the warranty. You know what I mean? And then the insurability of a shingle roof is going to decrease every year. So you might have a great warranty for 5 years, but then after that, it's going to start prorating. They're going to hand you a bundle of shingles. Every manufacturer out there will give you a 120 to 130 mile an hour wind warranty. The next paragraph followed with that is acts of God. Anything over 100 mile an hour is an act of God. So the warranties aren't worth it, and they're not going to fix the roof. I knew going into this, the aesthetic change was probably going to be a very, large change. Looking at your approved list up there, you went from an asphalt shingle to a 5B crimped. We went from a standing seam, we went into a clay tile to a stone-coated steel metal roof on Alhambra that we did. If we are looking back at a 1902 property and shingles came out in 1904 and shingles came out in 1903, 3 tabs, there's no way they made it down here logistically from where they are manufactured to St. Pete's. It was probably originally a wood shake roof. I would look at this and ask if we could go back and continue this.
Really quick, though, we do need to stay on topic since we are in executive session. So she's asking questions. Are you feeling like your question was answered, or do you have any more clarifying points?
No,
Okay.
because if you can restate the
an asphalt shingle with a Class H rating is rated for 150 miles per hour, and then there are also high impact rated shingles as well. There are products out there that in my opinion, could work.
So my question was there any research done on those types of shingles to match, and the cost of those, were they cost prohibitive, or
I have something to add to that. So we did a lot of research with our insurance carrier, and there's always discounting for a new roof over an existing roof. The type of discount we will get with this type of roof, with the metal roof that's proposed, is far greater. So that's where we arrived at this roofing type. And it was a consideration of cost for the roof and the longevity and the insurance savings we would get.
I'll just mention that our bylaws do not allow us to take into consideration cost. So that we need to make a ruling based on the other factors. So.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify if there was any research on the types of tile that she mentioned outside of the metal to
90, so each manufacturer is going to have their warranty documentation. You might have a Lincoln Navigator or you might have a Ford F-150. They're all going to fall back on the same type of warranty. They're all Class A and they're all high wind velocity, otherwise you can't install them here. So every shingle that's in the state of Florida is a Class A impact rated and a high velocity shingle.
Thank you.
I'll add, as Commissioner Michael said, this is a really difficult application. I know that you've done a lot with your home and you've opened it to the public for porch parties and things like that, and it's a really, really beautiful landmark property, so I sympathize as well. The only other thing that comes to mind, and I know that cost is not something that we need to take into consideration, but it seems that we're moving in a direction of sticking with this similar material, and I don't know if there's other things that can be done to give credits, such as clips. I don't know if any of that stuff has been explored, or third nails, or any other type of additions to the structure of it to maybe help with the insurance costs, but I just wanted to add that comment in there.
Does anyone have any other thoughts or comments? Can we please have a motion?
Okay, so this motion is in the affirmative, so because that's how the motions must be made. So, I will make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for the roof replacement with the material change, subject to, no, there aren't any, yeah.
I'm not clear.
You have a question?
Yes. I think I'm not clear on, so are you moving to, am I?
So
yeah.
As Commissioner Wanamaker said, all motions must be made in the affirmative. So it's always a motion to approve the application. And usually we have subject to the conditions of the staff report, which staff is recommending denial in this case. So the commission can, just as the motion as it sits now is just purely the approval. Now, those will be subject to conditions that we normally have even without this, that are conditions of code, such as the approvals are good for so long and they require inspections and things like that. We always add that up front, but they're subject to everything else applicable under city code. If you would like to add any conditions at this time or amend the motion, then we can do that before a vote is taken.
Okay, so it's subject to the city staff report, which was...
The request right now is a vote for review of certificate of appropriateness for the roof replacement with material change at the location. The request is for a standing seam roof as presented.
Okay, thank you for clarification.
We did have a motion, but we did not have a second yet.
I'll second the motion.
We'll take a vote.
Marve?
No.
Magnello?
Yes.
Carrasco?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Nelson?
No.
Wanamaker?
No.
Michaels?
Yes.
And, I'm sorry, can I just get clarification on the, because it's 3-3.
How is it 3-3?
I got fourth.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Commissioner Michaels.
3, 4, okay, and that motion passes.
It passed. You're gonna do your roof.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I can't take my hat. Neither is there.
Okay. Are y'all feeling good to power through for the last one?
Sure.
Okay. All right, Iris, whenever you're ready, we'll read agenda item number 5.
All right, and that's City File number 25-902-00060 and 25-902-00061. The first is a review of a certificate of appropriateness application for the demolition of a detached accessory building at 3131 6th Avenue North, a contributing property in the local historic district. And the COA ending in 6-1 is a review of a certificate of appropriateness application for the construction of a one-story accessory dwelling unit and for the after-the-fact installation of a front fence at 3131 6th Avenue North, a contributing property in the local historic district. The owners are Matthew and Stacy Perkinson, and the agent is Caitlin Gruenberg with Cast Construction. The staff planner is Kelly Perkins.
All right, good afternoon, Kelly Perkins. So we are here today for 2 COA proposals for 3131 6th Ave North. The subject property contains 2 structures that are located within the Northwest Kenwood Local Historic District. It is a single-family residence at the front and then an accessory building at the rear, which was originally a garage but has since been converted into an accessory dwelling unit. Both are listed as contributing to the district. So here's a photograph of the house on the left and the accessory dwelling unit on the right. The property card for the building indicates that the residence and garage were moved from 1362 29th Street South to its current location in 1934 by Fred G. Crawford, who was the owner of the property at the time. Fred G. Crawford was a prolific builder in the Kenwood area. This is my first instance of hearing of him moving a house, so that was interesting to see. The house is a craftsman style architecture, while the garage is a more frame vernacular. At some point, the garage was converted into an accessory dwelling unit and a side addition was constructed. So the request includes, first, the proposal to demolish the existing detached accessory building. The applicant provided a narrative that includes flood damage from Hurricane Milton, mold, and loss of historic elements. The second COA proposes the construction of a one-story accessory dwelling unit. It also did include a front fence that was part of the advertisement that has been removed by the applicant due to some issues with the fence that need to be resolved. So the proposed one-story ADU will be a similar size to the accessory structure that's proposed to be demolished. It will have a height of 13.5 feet and incorporate materials that will match the main house. So here are photographs provided of the accessory structure. As stated, the applicant justified the need, stating that there's improper drainage on the site, which caused the building to flood during the hurricanes last year, and that there's excessive mold. Staff found that it did not meet the criteria that the building is beyond repair and cannot be rehabilitated. Staff also recommends that the drainage on the site should be really assessed prior to moving forward with the demolition of a historic building. Here's the proposed site plan for the ADU building. It's generally in the same location as the existing historic accessory structure. And here are the proposed elevations. It's a simple front gabled building that utilizes forms and materials to match the main house. This is the one window similar to the prior application on the east elevation. This 4/4 window is a bit squat and doesn't really meet the traditional proportions for a window. Staff is recommending that this window be modified to either be a single light picture or casement window, or if they want it to be a sash hung window, that the window should be increased in size to match a more traditional proportion. So with the review of the criteria, staff finds that the demolition of the ADU building does not meet our criteria. So we are recommending denial. We did include the conditions of approval in case the commission wants to make a different determination. These are our standard conditions. I did add condition 3, which was a condition added at the last hearing related to the demolition of a historic accessory structure. I wasn't sure if that condition was kind of intended to become a standard condition, so I included it just as a recommendation for you to consider. Regarding the construction of the detached ADU, staff reviewed and found that it generally met most of the criteria for granting a certificate of appropriateness and for the guidelines for new construction. So we are recommending approval with conditions for that. Most of these conditions are standard conditions, with the exception of condition 3, which is related to that window that I mentioned on the east elevation. Regarding any modification in size, I feel like this could be handled at the staff level. And so that is the end of my presentation. The applicant and the owner is here, and the applicant does have a presentation to make. Thank you.
Hello. Hi. It's nice to see you all again. I was here last month. I'm a little bit more prepared this time. So my name is Caitlin. I'm with Cass Construction. And our applicant homeowner is also here, Stacy Perkinson. And she may speak. Hopefully I'll cover it all. It's very short.
Real quick, full name, address, super fast.
Oh, sorry, Caitlin Gruneberg. My home address?
Sure.
I'm like 9.
Doesn't matter. This work is fine.
Okay, Cass Construction, 916th
Perfect.
Street North. So for this one, it's a very short slide. So we kind of already talked about the traumatic experiences that some of the other applicants had with, the hurricanes and flooding and whatnot. And our applicant and my client also experienced those traumatic experiences with the hurricanes, with flooding. And she told me before, even in 2023, when she bought it, it was a week later that she also had flooding issues then. And obviously with flooding, ultimately gets to mold and mold remediation, and doing that time and time again is frustrating and scary, and just lots of emotions are related to that. And in addition to that, if there's another picture in the next slide that I'll get to, and these pictures right here are kind of showing some of the flood. This was a video that our client sent, and the water was not only coming through the front door, it was also coming up through the structure as well, through the cracks of the foundation because of how old it was. And I know that in the last month and other times it's kind of going back to maintaining these structures. And well, again, if it was an option, we would definitely do that. Maintaining the structure would not ultimately fix the underlying issue, which is the elevation of where this is. And I know we talked about fixing the drainage. Well, there's a slight issue with that in regards to, in order to do that, you would have to essentially regrade, and you would be causing an issue for your neighbors or her neighbors' properties as well with flooding. And she does have drainage and pumps and whatnot, but during a storm, when the power goes out, that's just not an option. So then you are back to the issue of flooding. In our next slide, based on how it's graded, you can almost see where the drain is to the arrow to the right, but essentially the grading to the left is higher, and so are the sides. So she's attempting to get it to the drain, but it ultimately is aimed to the front door, essentially. So again, while regrading would be an option, you would ultimately be causing an issue for her neighbors, and not solving the overall issue. And it's 3 inches lower than the house, so everything is kind of directed that way. And again, storms with the pumps, it's gonna not be able to do what it's meant to do. And some other points, that may come up during your thoughts, is lifting the house, obviously lifting the garage. That's cost thousands and thousands of dollars, so not an option. And obviously we're suggesting the new construction, which if you look at the other pictures that Kelly had shown before, there are like the detail and trim around the windows. Those are not historic. On the backside, on the north elevation, you can see where they closed in the ADU in 2016, and it doesn't match the house or even the other sides of this ADU when they filled in the wood framing and whatnot. So with the new construction, we're going to bring it back up to code to make sure that she doesn't have any issues. We're going to raise the elevation so she doesn't have any more flooding, no more mold, no more future issues. And we will put in all of the historic details to maintain the preservation of the existing house, or to match the existing house. So we're essentially going to be creating more historical appearance than what it currently has now. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Did we receive any public comments on this application?
No, Madam Chair, no
Okay.
comments.
And no comment cards?
No.
Okay. So seeing no public comments, we're going to move to cross-examination. Does city staff have any cross for the applicant?
No, city waves.
Okay. Does the applicant have any cross for the city? Okay. Any closing remarks?
None, thank you.
Okay. Does the applicant have any closing remarks?
Hi, my name is Stacy Perkinson. My husband and I purchased 3131 6th Avenue North in December of 2023. It was completely renovated. It had been owned by a flipper who had flipped it and redid the entire inside of that garage. And it was cute. It's a studio apartment. I thought it was great. And, you know, with the weather like it was last year, not a week after we moved in, it flooded. And I had spent, we spent like $30,000 on that backyard. We installed drains, 2 sump pumps, backups, everything. We thought that was going to fix it. We opened up the walls only to discover the mold, and because we were going to go back in and fix some of the, because it flooded up underneath the front of the house, and all that wood rot and mold is up underneath all that sheetrock that they just hung and painted. And the floor on the foundation is cracked, and there's also like a little level. So where you saw all that water is what's just coming up underneath the flooring. And I can't save it. I don't want to spend the money to have to build a new one, but I certainly don't want to have to keep something that I can't save. And because it would just basically be tearing it down to the studs anyway, and I have to tear up all the flooring, re-pour a foundation, and it's more cost effective for us to demolish and rebuild and make it better than it is at current state, because we've done mold remediation, we've done everything I could think of to save it, only to find out that truly it's not savable or not really compatible with having a tenant or anyone, family members, stay there for a long period of time because of the problems with the flooding and the mold. Because if the power goes out again, it's going to flood. I mean, and there's nothing I can do to stop it at this point. So I've done everything I could do beyond asking to have to do this. So I hope you will consider it. And Cask is great, and they're going to make it look beautiful, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move into executive session. I'll quickly I have a couple quick comments. I don't have any issues at all with the proposed ADU by Cask. I think it's beautiful, looks great. Actually, where my issue lies is thinking that this is going to be a reoccurring problem. My reason being is I understand you got sump pumps. You know, I understand that you have drains. Just for context, my background is environmental work, and how that relates to development. And my fear is that looking at your very beautiful backyard, there is no avenue for water to go. We're talking about really impacted gravel. We're talking about astroturf, which I also have in my backyard. And we're talking about asphalt paving. And my concern is, you know, water will gather, and when it rains here sometimes in the afternoon, it comes down like a hurricane, you know, and there's no telling, you know, we could get 2 inches in an hour, which is very unheard of. But, you know, that would be something that I would very, very seriously consider as a homeowner. Is I know you have drains, but potentially even reevaluating the fact of adding some surface in the rear of your home that allows for water to naturally drain. Because what's going to happen is the water is going to continue, and it's kind of what we're seeing here in the city of St. Pete with stormwater drainage issues, is drains can only take in water so fast, and they're doing their job. But at the same point, if water has no natural place to drain, we're going to continue having this uphill battle. And it's not just your home, it's just what is happening with the city. And it's a very real problem, is we keep putting impervious surfaces throughout and adding drains, but these drains are going to continue to get overlogged when we're getting, you know, 2 inches in an hour. So I'm moving towards, you know, approving both COAs, you know, demolishing it and doing the new one, but really highly considering adding a natural element back there that will actually allow these drains and sump pumps to work better, because I think that they're getting overlogged from the lack of pervious surfaces in your backyard. So unfortunately, we are in executive session, but if someone else has any questions or comments, that was just my comment to the group.
I was going to bring up the turf.
Yeah.
Definitely an issue on drain.
Could we ask the applicant if they would be able to modify their proposal to include a natural drainage element?
Is that something that happens?
We don't review impervious materials that are installed at grade that are not publicly visible in the rear yard. So compliance with zoning is a separate issue, that they will need to comply with any zoning restrictions related to their impervious surface and make sure their impervious surface calculations incorporates that AstroTurf as impervious. Because I don't think the plans did, and I didn't realize it was impervious until I saw the photos later. So, but I don't think that is really this commission's role. I think that would be really, that's regulated by zoning, related to impervious surface.
But is that something that is, you know, submitted with these plans? Is that?
Yes.
Okay, because I do know that there is a rule for that.
It's a 65% impervious surface max. I'm not sure, given that the house, I mean, that's a pretty large number, so most houses in this neighborhood tend to be below that.
Okay.
When the applicant goes for a building permit, that will be reviewed. The impervious surface maximum will be reviewed, and if it exceeds the maximum, then they'll have to make some changes. So.
Okay, so regardless of what is voted today, that will be reviewed.
Yes, because this doesn't include a variance for impervious surface.
Okay. And this, I'm not trying to make an example out of you guys. It's just something that, you know, this has come up time and time again about climate change, being resilient, and really how do we have these homes last a long time? And it's understanding that bringing back some sort of natural element, and I do know that the city has rules about that. And when I saw the backyard, I just really don't want this, you just spend all this amazing money and build this beautiful ADU, and then we're going to have the problem again. And not saying that this is, you know, Casca's issue, it's, you know, it's a Mother Nature issue, but I want this to be a success for you, and not to come back in 2 years and we have to reevaluate.
That was going to be my question. Would the elevation eliminate the drainage and the flooding problem? So pretty much.
And, you know, my fear with it is, like you said, you know, adding elevation, you know, adding that's great. We already are seeing, you've spent money on sump pumps, we've spent money on drains, and clearly it's still an issue. So I think we're kind of, it'll be interesting. I don't know if there's a way that we can kind of keep up to what happens at the city level with this, because I do think that's something that this element of being resilient and hearing comments about stormwater drainage issues in our city keep coming up. So I think it's just important we all stay educated on that.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to continuously change, you know, when we talk about the impervious materials. And just from the rain we had yet today and a few days ago, I know some streets flooded typically probably wouldn't flood, but every house is being changed to the shell or the turf grass. It just doesn't allow the absorption. And we're seeing it on the beaches now, just talking elevation for a second. St. Pete Beach recently approved using fill to raise up. So now, and they've changed the seawall height from 5 to 6. So now if you're a homeowner that doesn't raise your house and doesn't change your seawall, and it's existing, it's at 5, but your homeowner, your adjacent neighbor goes and builds a 2-foot, soil pad and a 6-foot wall, where do you think all that water is going to go? It's going to go to your house, right? So exactly kind of what they were talking about with some of it. So I think we're going to continuously see some of these evolving situations. But yeah, the turf grass was the first thing I noticed.
And there's like lots of landscaping options that are super Florida friendly. And I know that there's a lot of companies in the city that specialize in that can help maybe go in there with some landscaping design of how to keep all this investment safe too. And, enhance, what is already a very beautiful backyard. But just, it does eventually drain, but I really think that that's an issue. And I would love for you to be able to do this and then not have to come back here ever again for this ADU.
As city staff, can we elaborate why, what terms you had to not approve the demolition? Again? Just quickly.
Well, our criteria for demolition is related to structural feasibility, and the building is structurally standing and it is feasible. The evidence provided did not talk about sump pumps or prior flooding. It only talked about hurricanes, so that was new information.
Do we typically, with these, have you seen, I don't know how costly they are, I don't know how much time they have, but an engineer's, quick report, I know we've seen it before about a structure report of someone coming out there and documenting it. I know that we did see the images of the water and the flooding and stuff, but to have a professional opinion on the actual structure of that,
Are you looking for documentation of the structure prior to demolition, or documentation related to?
Referring to a different case, it was, the roof was kind of coming in and they had an actual, PEAE go out and, it wasn't just the builder, it was.
And they declared it as.
Engineer, yes.
I mean, that's one of the, recommended documents provided as part of a demolition application is to have a engineer or architect who have to provide their documented evidence that they have experience in rehabilitation of structures, meaning they have experience with structure. There was a letter from an architect as included as part of this, but they did not demonstrate that experience, nor did they address structural elements of the building. They just addressed flooding.
I'm a little nervous about not having that and continuing to move forward. And then if we get another application that lacks an engineer's report stating that the structure isn't sound, I'm a little, that kind of brings up some thoughts as if we're just lacking a report that's stating that from someone when we've previously had it, and then moving forward. And
we've not had a report by a engineer or architect submitted for every demolition request. Okay. And I would say a lot of these garages have been approved for demolition without them.
Without those? Okay.
I think that if we did have a report from an engineer, they would probably state that the structure is not at risk of falling down. It would probably say that it's stable and it could probably be renovated. I think what we're being asked to approve is kind of an aesthetic issue, and just approving something that will be more compatible with a current ADU rather than what they have right now. So, and it is definitely an extra expense to ask the applicant every time to go back and do a lengthy, thorough engineering report. So.
I just wasn't sure if that was something that we always had. It's tough to remember every single story that we get here, but if that is something that we've always had, I wanted to make sure that that's something.
Yeah, I mean, the floor plan for the new ADU really efficient. It's really very nice, very efficient. It's amazing how much the architect, designer, planner has gotten into that small space, and certainly it'll be an asset to the homeowner and increase the value of the home as well. So,
If I could go off the coattails, I think what we're both trying to get at here is that, so there's two COAs, one for the new build, and staff approves it, and there's, I think we all enjoy it, but the demo was for non-approval. So if we're to turn over staff's recommendation, is there anything else that we should be looking at? That's kind of what I wanted to just talk about the demo. Because there could be just hydrostatic pressure pushing water up, and it's just at the wrong elevation, but the thing can stand. So if we're going to be turning over what staff's recommending, that's what I'm getting at, and I think that's what you're getting at too. Is what evidence can we utilize to say, okay, we're going to approve this anyway, and not set a precedent to just approve demo COAs that are denied.
Much more eloquent.
Right.
You heard my brain thoughts, but I couldn't quite get those words out, and I just want to make sure.
So is there a question for staff? I'm not sure if there's a specific question or not.
I guess my initial question was just can we kind of go through, and we did already, just the points of why the demo COA was put up for denial. Because we don't want to waste everybody's time. So if we do approve it, is there anything, because there's no approval with recommendations, right? If we were.
There, yes, on this slide, there is a list of recommended or suggested conditions that you can all, choose to approve any or all. I would say 1, 2, and 4 is our standard conditions related to any demolition request. 3 was just I was adding in the condition that this commission added to the previous request, because I wasn't sure if that was intended to be a standard condition or not.
Okay.
For the future, I would be in favor of tightening up on the technical information that should be accompanying these applications. I don't want to, penalize the applicant that's before us, but I think it is an important issue for the future. It's a process issue, really, that needs to be addressed.
Right.
Yeah, is there a way, we're not making an example out of you guys, but it's helping us help keep these things efficient. So it is really great when these things are brought up. So in the future, for stuff like this, is there a way to, you're saying, how do we emphasize to an applicant?
I mean, so the issue is for demolition, you have certain requirements related to site plans, drawings or floor plans. When it comes to elevation drawings, sometimes we allow photo documentation, especially for accessory structures. But then this bottom part is that written description explaining why there's no feasible alternative. It says the CPPC may solicit expert testimony and will likely request that the applicant furnish such additional information believed to be necessary, in determination whether there's a reasonable beneficial use or a reasonable return. So that's where this list of whether you have a report or not. But it's not a requirement to provide all that. It's for them to provide this, and then you can request more information as needed. So if there was something that you want to think that on this list should be a requirement moving forward, that's something to think about, that we could amend our COA demolition requirement.
So essentially, they have to come to us before we can rebuttal back and say, well, you should get a PE survey done.
I mean, we always, recommend people provide as much documentation as possible to show the building's deteriorated state and its inability to be rehabilitated. So that's what staff tries to recommend. We don't always get that to a level that we can recommend approval on.
So how do we make it a requirement?
I think probably a workshop.
You have a joint meeting with City Council at the end of August, so we can bring that as a subject.
I'd be in favor of putting that on the agenda for that meeting.
That would be a great list. Because I think that'll help you guys too. It'll help, I think, too, with the morale of applicants coming in, of, this is something that will strengthen it. These are typically things that, I think that it'll ease a lot of it with other people too.
But hypothetically, if we had that report in front of us today that said that the structure was stable, and would it change would it change how we would?
Well, I don't think it's just a structure. You
It's-
say, you have a P site survey with structure done, and someone puts a LiDAR scan on there and knows that, okay, well, adjacent to the house, the soil is 6 inches higher than the door threshold.
Yeah, and potentially in this case, it might be settling, or tipping, or over time, somebody could there could be an opinion that over time, because of the slab that is heaving or cracked, the structure right now as it sits might be okay, but soon, with all of the additional moisture that we anticipate getting over the next years, it would
Yeah, I
be.
mean, honestly, for me, if I saw a different application come in for a new building, and it was a two-story height building, or something that was just double the size, but she's putting in like for like, I'm not questioning all the evidence for the demo as much, because why would anybody go pay, $200 a square foot on something when you can, throw in 50 grand and fix it and just not have the problem? So kind of taking that as evidence.
Except that it won't fix it in this case.
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great thing. We have a joint meeting coming up with City Council, and this is really going to help this process too, for further applications. So thank you guys for your patience.
So just to confirm, if it's demo, they can meet all the requirements that the city asks for in the rebuild, right? They agreed to meet all those requirements. Okay. I just wanted to confirm.
I don't know if I need to answer that, but yeah, as part of the building permit, they'll need to comply with all of their city
and
codes and requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any other comments?
The only comment that I had, and it's kind of related to what we were talking about, is I think criteria 3 for additional guidelines for demolition. So I had the same kind of thoughts that Kelly put into the report about the air quality, and just wanting a little bit more details on that, because I saw that like one area was tested, but I wasn't sure about the rest of the structure. But knowing that you guys have tried to explore drains, and now that we've had this really thoughtful discussion about if we do demolish it, things that can improve the drainage, I feel comfortable now moving forward with the demolition, and then also approving the second application as well. So that additional information really helped.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion on the first certificate of appropriateness, and that is to approve the demolition of the detached accessory building, subject to the 4 conditions that is suggested in the staff report.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, ready?
We'll vote.
Marbay,
Yes.
Magnello,
Yes.
Carrasco,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Wanamaker,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
and that motion passes unanimously.
Okay, so the applicant has approval to demolish the existing accessory structure. So now I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for the construction of an ADU, subject to all of the conditions in the staff report, and those are conditions 1 through 6.
Second.
Okay. Marbay,
Yes.
Magnello,
Yes.
Carrasco,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Wanamaker,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience on that.
No, he's probably going to talk about the meeting or joint.
Okay. So now we get to move to updates and announcements.
All right, thank you. I just have one quick announcement for you about a fellow commissioner. This week we did receive a formal letter of resignation from Commissioner Cassie Gardner. She was just encountering a lot of conflicts with her work, and so if we haven't shared that letter with the commission already, we will make sure we do that. But we certainly appreciate the time that she's given to the commission, and we really valued the technical expertise that she was bringing to the commission because of her professional work doing renovations on historic buildings. So again, we appreciate her service to this commission and the community of St. Petersburg, and we will begin the work of reviewing applicants to find a replacement for her that can similarly bring that technical expertise to this commission when you're reviewing those certificates of appropriateness, and it involves detailed building discussions like the one you just had. I had no other announcements or updates today. Thank you.
So are we going to add somebody from the alternates to the full panel on the left?
We can do that. What will happen is we, based on the way the system is set up now, we open up the application window. We already have a pool of applicants who continue to submit to this commission, and so we'll review those and look for a similar match. That may include promoting up an alternative and then backfilling the alternative vacancy with the new appointment.
Since he's done, I just wanted to talk about that one case we had with the metal roof and just explain, we set a precedent today on that. For me, I voted yes for a few factors. One, I know it's a landmark, but homeowner did apply for his own home to be a landmark. And then I know there's gray areas. And then B, I am sympathetic to the insurance, and that's why I brought up the other barrel tile roof that we approved that is metal, because across the street the house is barrel tile. I think barrel tile would look nice on that house, but that's me wearing my architectural hat. But there is more cost per square foot, and so I'll be honest, I didn't think it was going to pass, but I wanted to make sure that I voted where I was personally. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there that we did change the game a little bit today on that one.
I'll just add that this whole discussion about substitute materials on these landmark buildings is a challenging one, and it's becoming more so with storm resiliency and impacts, especially in the state of Florida. So some of the complicated and layered discussions you have as a commission that our staff has in their review and analysis of these applications are very different than how they would be handled somewhere else, not in Florida. Our approval of vinyl windows is an example where we have demonstrated substantial flexibility in historic preservation best practices because of the impact resistance and storm resiliency that is so important here. That is not needed in other states. So the idea of approving vinyl windows in some other locations is really a non-starter for these types of things. But we continue to try to demonstrate that flexibility where needed, and these roof materials is like other things with siding, door materials will just continue to be a debate. There are more active discussions at the federal level related to substitute materials, and I think we've provided some information this past year, some presentations that they've been giving on the federal level as well to help guide everybody in taking on these issues as new technologies and materials come on board too. So we'll continue to evaluate those, and to the extent that we can, share that information with you guys to help you make these decisions.
I'll just add one other thing, just thinking about this in the future. When we approved the standing seam metal roof, did they propose a specific color? And I don't think they did. Or did they? And
it was in the application.
Yeah. And we never really discussed that, but maybe we need to make sure that we point that out, that we don't want a blue roof. Was it in there? Okay, I didn't see that.
I don't think everybody assumed it was going to pass. I hate to say,
right. Right. Well, so I just want to make sure that since it did pass, that it's not going to be blue. It's not going to be.
The sample that was provided.
Yeah,
and
the physical sample.
the physical sample and the renderings were all a silver.
So was like a galvanized silver, not real shiny silver, I guess. Dull, matte, more matte. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I wonder if having a sample. I remember how the roofing contractor brought a sample of that barrel tile roof that one when they came back the second time. I wonder if having samples, asking if samples are provided to city staff, I think it really would be helpful if we had those here so we knew for certain what it was that they were going to be providing. Even in today's case, I think it would be helpful on both sides of the argument, I think. So, yeah, I think that would be helpful to have.
I agree, because I think a lot of this really, I mean, obviously we have the architectural standards and requirements, but a lot of this is aesthetics too.
Yeah, right.
And having physical samples in front of us so that we can make these determinations, which again, I always sympathize with the homeowners on this, and to piggyback off of Commissioner Magnello, I didn't think that was going to pass. I mean, but I have a hard time not wanting to approve something when you have a homeowner that is like basically groveling, saying I can't get insurance, or if I do, it's going to be X amount of dollars. And given the climate and the weather and everything that's going on, I mean, and I've made this point before, like these properties are aging. They're not the pyramids. They're wood, for the most part, wood frame, or they have a stucco exterior, and these things are going to deteriorate over time. A lot of them, it's already happening. They're 100 years old or getting close to. So, yes, we obviously want to be cognizant of our historic preservation, but at the same time have to make it accessible for homeowners too, because otherwise we start to discourage historic preservation.
Well, as I said last time too, if I may, Chair, we now with this approval and the approval of the prior one, we are starting to create sample sizes of our own where we can see the as-built and be able to bring that to the commission and be like, this is what it actually looks like on a previous approval. This is what they said they were doing, and this is what it looks, and it might be great, it might be not, but we're not bound to the decisions that we made today when we're seeing these cases of first impression. We do have the ability to go in the future and be like, we saw this, we took the as-built, and we'd really like to see something that looks more compatible. So what is that? So we should have more of those coming in. And I do know for some stipulated agreements, sometimes there might be we have proof of financial ability to even enter into agreements for construction and rehabilitation, for demolitions, for codes, for example. A lot of things that are coming in, we were talking about adding perhaps plans and engineering drawings to some of these demolitions. It might be a situation where we ask for some sort of proof that they were denied on their insurance. Because while I don't think any of the people that have come before have been misleading us, it might be something that where people are like, if you say that, that's an automatic yes. So that might be something that the commission considers, to see just some kind of proof of the inability to insure these other materials. And whether that comes from applicants or from agencies or some other proof of that, that might be something that the commission wants to see as part of these applications, since it is a request that we're seeing more frequently.
That's a really, really great idea. Is there a way that, can we add that to our list of city council things? Because is that something that we would have to add on to
our bylaws?
Yeah.
So
allow us to.
And that brings me, actually, it was a good segue. So one of the roofing applicant submitted probably about 100 pages of materials last night. And this commission is now the only commission whose rules do not allow that. So I was going to speak to propose that perhaps this commission look to update your rules of procedure to follow what city council and what DRC is doing. And that also includes no more same day. I made a book. It doesn't happen very often here. It happens a lot more often at those other two bodies, but same day, 1,000-page printout that's passed out. Obviously, you can't review that all at the same time. So maybe making some updates to the procedures to add that, and we might add some other requirements. Right now, it can only be suggestions in the handout, so we have, it may be a city code amendment for required submission materials. There's a couple of different ways to do it, and we could definitely explore that. I can assist Derek and his team in exploring some of those options.
That would be great. I have a question, and I didn't ask it today because I don't think it necessarily needed to happen today, but it was the way how my brain was working during that application with the roofing materials. So we have an example of a private homeowner bringing in their hired contractor to get to this point. I'd like to think that, you know, when you're going to spend whatever that homeowner is about to spend, they considered various quotes, I'm hoping, not just referring from one friend that told you this guy's the guy. I wasn't sure if it was impolite, if it was allowed, if it just, I kind of wanted to ask, have you considered going anywhere else? But it's difficult because, you know, I'm looking at the application and it's seeing, what did it say? Sorry. You know, it's showing the agent and owner. I didn't want to isolate the owner from the same presentation, but that was like what I really wanted to ask is like, is there anyone else that we can talk to? Have you looked at any more quotes? You know, is there any other manufacturers that you looked at? You know,
I think those questions are fair game. I think if you watch your companion board DRC, there's, you know, personal questions could get out of bounds a little, but they toe the line a little bit more. But that's about materials, and I think that was also would have been appropriate too in light of the comments that Commissioner Wanamaker made and Commissioner Davis's follow-up questions, and essentially what did you look at, what have we considered, and what are the barriers to alternative materials. I think that's a completely appropriate question, though it may be awkward when you have, like you said, a team.
I didn't want to call them out and be like, have you talked to anyone else? But like that's just kind of where I think I'm going to start when this is happening going, because to me I feel like we're getting these very one-sided opinions on how things are, how manufacturers are, and while, like you said, it might be kind of awkward, I feel like we're kind of missing potentially reviewing, you know, 3 different types of proposals of different items, you know, and I just, yeah, it is awkward when it's, you know, the contractor doing it, but now that I know that that's the way we can go, I do
not out of bounds.
Okay, because in my head, that's what I was saying for 20 minutes, so.
That's kind of where I was trying to go, but I didn't know if I could go directly but that when I asked the question, that's kind of what I was trying to point to. But
is there any way that can get pushed to city staff in the application process? Like, hey, have you procured, you know, when they come to you with quotes and bids and whatnot, can we
We do ask.
Okay.
We ask for all of that. We ask for all the proof that they can provide. I had a prior roofing one where the owner stated that they lost their insurance and that they went with the standing seam rather than metal shingles, and they provided that documentation that their insurance was being voided. They provided the different quotes, but not all of these applicants are willing to provide the documents, but it still meets our basic criteria for what is a complete application, so we still have to move it forward.
Okay.
And then that's just for the commission to weigh the competent substantial evidence that's provided and whether they're providing enough for you to be able to make a decision based on the criteria.
And that last one where we were in Lakewood Estates, and if you remember, we had the meeting where it went back, and then what was the language or the reasoning that we were able to immediately see them the next month? What was that, just a continuance?
That's a continuance. You're basically continuing the public hearing for a finite point.
Okay.
It's not just we don't want to hear it, or that would be a deferral. Deferrals are we don't do any of it and we're going to defer it to the following meeting. A continuance is we're continuing the public hearing because the board is requesting further information.
Do Do you think that in the future, if we have something like this again, where we're kind of getting a one-sided proposal and a one-sided argument, that we could do a continuance of, can we go out there and get another, professional opinion on a different type of product? Or do you think that that's kind of towing the line of what we can request or not?
So there's a difference. There's a very fine line, like you said, between saying we don't really feel this person's trustworthy, get another one, or I don't understand, I can't tell from what you're providing, the documentation or the samples that you have, what this really looks like. And they say, oh, well, I have actually a model like playhouse that I built with this, and I could bring it. And you're like, well, I'd like to see that. And so we continue, he brings it in, we see it, we touch it, we go, that's for that. It's for fine, it's very narrow. Continuances are for certain things that the board needs further information and able to render a decision.
Two points I'll add. So first on this subject, by the time that our staff is getting involved, it's usually because the window contractor, the roof contractor is contacting us for the COA, and it's not the property owner that's just beginning the process and trying to sort out what options or choices are they going to have. So we're immediately in a position where we're kind of boxed in. That window contractor that's probably already taken a deposit is sitting in our office pursuing the COA, showing us pictures of the window that's ordered and already sitting in the warehouse, and they think that they're just going to go through and get this permit approval, not understanding the purpose of the COA procedures. So that's a challenge that we have. And then to add to what Ms. Perkins was saying, the other thing that we often see is window replacement with the new window vendor, like I just said, sitting in our office. We also heavily encourage the property owner to solicit a window repair bid, not only because that's smart best practice, but also because sometimes the window repair could be more affordable than the window replacement. And I don't think all the homeowners think that way, because they're just engaged in this relationship with the new window contractor, and they may not be aware that there are historic tradespeople that can do window repair. And so we also heavily encourage the property owner to get a competitive repair bid to any new replacement bid that they have.
So my question, that's really, really interesting, and I didn't realize that. So like in my work, for example, with environmental stuff, I can never act on, even though I'm a consultant, I'm a contractor, I'm hired, I can never act on behalf of a client and request an inspection. I can't do those things, even though like it would be very streamlined if I could. The property owner always has to do that. So does that, like what you said of like, there's already a deposit, they're probably already in your office. So when a COA is presented to you all, it does not have to be from the property owner, it can be from a contractor?
We need a notarized authorization form
from the
owner.
Okay. That at first I was like, they can just act on behalf of the owner. So I think that's where I was a little confused.
You can have an agent. It doesn't even have to be a contractor. You can have anyone speak on your behalf, present on your behalf, but we do need a notarized form saying that this person is allowed to talk for me and receive a decision on my property.
Wow. Okay.
And as staff, we have, because there's a particular relationship that's happening between staff and the contractor who's presenting as the agent. In the past, the property owner wasn't always included in the communications, but one of the things that we have increasingly seen, whether it's fences, window replacements, or some of the siding replacement cases that you've had, the property owner isn't receiving all of the information that our historic preservation team is communicating to the contractor. So we have been making a more direct effort to always include the property owner in any of our communications back to the contractor, so that we know the property owner is at least seeing the direction and counsel that our staff is providing to the contractor. Because you've seen some of the emotion from property owners here in this chamber, and it's because they weren't getting, in my opinion, the very clear direction and counsel from our staff that we were providing months beforehand, but it was kind of just dying with the contractor and not making it back through to the property owner. So they're coming in with uncertainty, fear, anxiety about the process that we thought we were alleviating early on, and maybe weren't because that information wasn't getting through.
Definitely see that. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like you see them like whispering to each other, and you can totally tell that the property owners, what just happened, you know, like they're not sure. So I do think that that's a really good, I think like involving them as much as possible. And I do like now that I feel a bit more comfortable knowing that I can step in and request that, because now I feel like we kind of do need to start harping on that a little bit more with some of this stuff.
That way it's not being filtered through an interested party that has a vested interest in
Right.
a construction job.
If we tell the contractor to get a window repair estimate to potentially help their case, and they only sell new windows, are they really going back to the property owner to tell them, hey, this is what staff counseled us on? And maybe not. And then that property owner is standing here and we're talking about repair versus replacement, and that's the first time they're hearing about it.
Oh, gosh. That would be... I would not be happy. I think that's really great. Do we have any other announcements? No. Okay. All right, this meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Move it, body, body, move it, baby. Move it, body.
It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. Just brushing up on some of my favorite literary classics. Even if a page turner like this isn't up your alley, did you know our libraries offer so much more than classic books? There's also things like passes to local museums. You can download ebooks onto your Kindle device. And super cool things like a teen gaming program. Visit your local library and see all it has to offer.
Well, we just finished Move with the Mayor, which was a mile walk around downtown St. Pete, really sponsored by the U.S. Conference of Mayors and Healthy St. Pete, of course, right here in our city, to stress wellness and the link between mental health and physical health.
May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so it's important that we do things like this, and we're happy that we have administrative support and the city to come in and celebrate with us.
We went for a walk with the mayor. Yeah. Moved our bodies, connected with
Wait,
some
first we
friends.
did a warm up. Don't forget the warm
Yeah.
up. We did
Little dancing.
We little dance, a little aerobic dance and activity, and then we walked around the city.
Yeah, it was great. Yes.
Awesome.
The whole point of this is to connect the benefit of physical fitness and mental health. As we know, moving our body is good for our minds.
Wellness has been a focus of the city and continues to be. We want our city to be healthy. Healthy and safe neighborhoods is one of our pillars for progress. We want folks to get out, move, and enjoy some of the natural benefits we have in the city of St. Pete with this kind of weather and the beauty of our city.
We're all yoga teachers, so we're all very familiar with encouraging people to move their bodies to help with mental health, really, and just feeling their best.
Mental and physical.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have an inclusive approach to health. It includes mental health, it includes physical health. So we look at the entire person just as we look at our entire community.
I hope the community had a great time today, came in and just learned more about the resources out there. The city is rich with resources, and we hope we gave them an opportunity to connect.
it's a housing development that we can all be proud of. We never want to lose that fundamental focus on inclusion for every part of St. Petersburg. We're also allocating about $1.2 million to address food insecurity. Our rays are here to stay. At the end of the day, we all do better when we all can participate.
Momentum begins with one single motion forward. Methodically, the intentional motion forward becomes real, tangible, meaningful, because progress matters.
We are focused on inclusive progress, and as we see the rapid development in St. Petersburg and Pinellas County, we want to make sure that every citizen has an opportunity to be a part of that. And workforce development means preparing our citizens to take advantage of those opportunities that are coming, whether it's through job training, through soft skill development, or other support, just to make sure that everyone can connect to the jobs that are coming. We are implementing a MWBE program, Minority and Women Business Enterprise Program, that will carve out certain parts of our city business for those minority and women-owned businesses. We're celebrating the opening of the Legacy Senior Apartments here at Jordan Park, 60 senior apartments, as well as the redevelopment of over 200 affordable apartments right next door. In the city of St. Petersburg, we put small businesses first because when they're competing and thriving, they're the heart of a healthy, vibrant, and diverse community that we all love. Today, we take a significant step towards honoring the promises made to the gas plant community some 40 years ago. This is what progress looks like, and our rays are here to stay.
Now we stand up on a solid foundation of progress. We see the possibilities that lie ahead, and without hesitation, we will proceed.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity that the city of St. Pete has provided for me, knowing I can rely on the city when I need it, especially since I'm already a city employee.
We almost lost everything during COVID. Without the grant money, I think many of us would have closed our doors.
Mayor Welch, he always say, we are St. Pete. You're definitely feeling like you are a part of that we when you receive that microfund grant program to help your business.
I want to give a huge thanks to the City of St. Petersburg, not only for funding our grants, but for providing educational resources through the St. Pete Greenhouse to help us grow our small businesses. It's nice to live in a city that cares about its people.
1, 2, 3.
We will proceed for a brighter future because progress is paramount, because we are St. Pete.
What do you know about the Coliseum? That was a boom time development, wasn't it?
It was pretty much the place where people went.
Sure.
For entertainment. I mean, you hear some of the stories of the bands that played there, and it was amazing.
Most of the big white swing bands, I think, played there. And because it was in the segregation area, the counterpart in the black community was on 22nd Street South with the Manhattan Casino.
Correct.
And of course, they had all the big name bands come there and play as well.
The Coliseum in the 20s and 30s was kind of like the Amalie Arena of today, where everybody who was anybody musically performed there. But didn't some of the acts perform at the Coliseum and then that same night leave and go play at the
Absolutely,
Manhattan?
they sure did. And sometimes they would gather for impromptu jam sessions in people's houses, I'm told.
That's very cool.
Yes, it is.
I was really blessed to grow up in a multi-generational family. So my mother and both of my grandmothers were very influential in my life. They were women who were very family-oriented. That commitment extended to the larger community, and that created a very secure and safe environment for me to grow up in.
Most of us growing up in the 80s were latchkey kids. When I started going home after school, Alone was the very first Oprah Winfrey show. And I really looked up to Oprah in the way she was able to talk to people and learn about lives that were things that maybe I didn't see in my own community. Back in small town Louisiana, opened up a whole new world to me.
My childhood was full of family, so my role models were my immediate and extended family members. And while many of them are no longer physically here with us, I still have all of their teachings, the lessons, the love for family, the hard work ethic, laughter and talking that applies to my life now, that I hope my daughters will carry into their lives and hopefully eventually their families.
My mother is definitely the strongest role model in my life. She was the instrumental person in getting us out of Cuba. She taught me the importance of being independent, being resilient, and also as a working mom, she taught me that you could balance a career, family, and God.
I am very hopeful about the future of women leaders in St. Pete. It's very promising.
Already we have women in management positions and in leadership positions.
We have women in some of the places that we've been wanting to be for decades.
There's lots of women in every single role in the city, whether it's police officers, firefighters, and leadership.
The one thing that I love about the female leadership that's in place is that they are making a path for other women to follow.
But we also have a lot of work to do because I think we can diversify that pool of women still.
You have to have people of all walks of life. Everyone brings something different to the table, and it's important to hear all of those perspectives in order to find something that works best for everyone. After all, we're representing a very diverse, very large city now.
Women have such an important role in our culture.
The future of women in St. Pete has never felt brighter.
Mentor a young lady or find a mentor for yourself.
Be sure to honor women in your life.
This month and every month.
I want it to be fun. I want people to ask questions like, why are the cows flying? Why does the girl have two faces? All of my artwork, I want to hint at a story that you can fill the blanks in with. My artwork tells my story of navigating femininity, faith, and Latinidad through my painting. Just having something that is gonna live on and that people will stumble upon, like, wow, this really is super cool. I'm Christy. I've always been an artist. It's never really been a choice that I've made.
Maybe it's a little bit of my kind of hippie roots that makes me believe that music can change the world, and I feel we're doing our part in doing that. I'm Brad Wenkos, founder of True Fire. We're based here in the Warehouse Arts District of St. Petersburg. True Fire is a publisher of interactive video software for music education. In the Warehouse Arts District, you still have a lot of warehouses and industry, but you have artisans, you have pottery, you have painters, studios. What do we have? 3 or 4 breweries even. So you've got this really kind of hip scene that's growing up Central Avenue. We're really looking forward to what the Warehouse Arts District is going to look like in 5 years. I think it's going to be one of the country's premier art centers. When we present a course, you're either streaming that course or you're downloading the course. And it's not just the video that's a part of the lesson, it's sheet music, interactive tablature, backing tracks, charts. So there's a lot of digital assets that comprise a True Fire video lesson. I wish we had more teachers here in St. Petersburg, but typically we'll fly them in from Europe, South America, all over the States, Canada, fly them into St. Petersburg, put them up at one of the nice hotels downtown.
When I'm in St. Petersburg, I'm happy. For that reason, I wrote a couple of songs in my acoustic album dedicated to St. Pete.
When I was growing up, if you wanted to play guitar, you couldn't even learn that in school. You had to go find another guitar player. There were no books, there were no DVDs, certainly wasn't any internet, so you'd found another guitar player. Today, you can sit a student in front of a screen. You can show them multiple angles so that they can see the right hand, the left hand, everything that the player, the teacher is doing. So you're watching a video, you have a little map for where to put your fingers, you're listening, and you're able to learn how to play music. We do live broadcasts every time an artist comes to town. Streams around the world. For those 60 minutes, we have people of all creed, color. For that hour, we are one, we are a family. We share a passion. That's a very, very powerful influence.
Sign painting was a very blue-collar job. It wasn't a glorified art by any means. The people that were practicing sign painting, they had to find the most efficient means of going about it. So oftentimes they would draw it directly on and paint from there. And when you take that approach, it's prone to accidents. Sometimes you'll have the proportions a little bit off, or you'll see a little bit of these imperfections. And I think that's really charming. I think that catches people's eye. They feel a little bit more connected to the personality of the lettering or of the sign. At an art studio, it was a warehouse, and there was a lot of other great artists, and I realized no one there was really focused on lettering. In that time, they asked me to start painting signs for each different art show that came about, And that really got me the experience of working on a large scale. I totally fell in love with crafting the letters and building them up from scratch. There's reverse glass signs, there's wall signs, A-frames, we have blade signs, hanging signs. There's a wide array. One aspect of the work I do is gold leaf work. It's pretty magical to watch it happen. You're applying these thin sheets of gold to either glass or on the surface, and you paint the background and then remove the excess of the gold, and it kind of reveals the lettering that you painted. St. Pete has a really great small business community, and I've had the opportunity to work with so many great people that started out as clients and become good friends. I really appreciate the trust that people give me to help them and advise on what sign's gonna work best for them. At the end of the day, you eat with your eyes before you do with your mouth, so having a good sign will leave a lasting impression. And you might not always know why you like it or dislike it, but it sticks with you.
My name is Catherine Washington, and I'm the first Black female firefighter for the city of St. Petersburg, Florida, and I'm very proud to be that and hold that title. A trailblazer is a person, and they go out and they do something that is mostly done by one gender, and they pierce that and they make something out of it that redistributed what people think of each other. I always wanted to kind of do what I call dangerous work. Something that somebody else didn't want to do, you know. So when my sister said, hey, they hired, so I said, I want to go for the fire department. And I went. In this world, for me to be a firefighter, it was the most unique thing that I could ever think to be. Me being in the Army Reserve gave me a step up to think I could do way more things. I could lift the weights, I could come out of the building out of a window just like the man did, and that gave me the chance to do it. We used to have the Martin Luther King parade. One time, I didn't want to be in the parade, I wanted to see the parade. Well, I had these 3 African-American older females that I knew knock on my door and say to me, you do not miss another parade as long as you're on this department, because we have young girls out here who need to see you and know that they can aspire to be what you are. So don't be standing over here in the crowd with us. You be out there walking with them fellas. If I could say something to kids who think they can't aspire to be this because they have problems and they think those problems hold them down, don't let what you think you hold you back. Aspire to be what you want to be in spite of that. And then you can see yourself being somebody else.
My name is Shakayla Berthelo, and I am the first to graduate from the Gibbs High School EMT program and get hired on with St. Pete Fire and Rescue. A trailblazer is someone who is a discoverer, a creator, who takes risks. They aren't afraid to put themselves out there, and they're constantly trying to better themselves, not only for personal growth, though, for for those around them, they're leading and they're bringing people with them. It's called the EMT program, EMT Preparatory Program at Gibbs High School. It's essentially 3 years long, and you'll go through what's the traditional EMT program that people would do outside of doing it through high school. But the classes that you take your sophomore, junior, and senior year are preparatory classes, kind of set you up for what you're going to encounter when you start EMT school. It was definitely challenging for sure, and a lot of hardships to get over, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world because it set me up for this. Like, it gave me a ridiculous amount of opportunities, and I am so, so grateful for that. Growing up, I think I had two pretty important trailblazers. One would probably be Shirley Chisholm, who was the first Black female to join the U.S. Congress. It was monumental, especially at that time, because you didn't see a lot of strong Black females in positions like those. And also, Madam C.J. Walker, she's the first Black millionaire in America. She started her own hair care line for Black natural hair. And I think that is also incredible. Those are probably the two biggest trailblazers I had growing up. Just kind of let me know that if they can do it, I can do it, no matter what it is. I am a representation of you can do it. You set your mind to it and you can do it. Absolutely, do not hesitate, do it, because you can. So I say for people who are kind of struggling with that, or like struggling with the confidence of not being able to do something, I say just do it. Just do it, because you're only hurting yourself by not doing it. So just put yourself out there. You never know what's gonna happen.
Moved to St. Pete in 2014. We drove around and walked around different neighborhoods and noticed that they had events, community gatherings, cleanups, signage, cool logos, flags, all kinds of stuff like that. And I thought, I wonder why we don't have that. For the longest time, one of the things that annoyed us was anytime we met locals from St. Pete, one of the first questions they would ask us is, what neighborhood do you live in, right? And so people would say, well, I live in Kenwood, or I live in North Kenwood, or I live in Old Northeast, or Old Southeast. And we would just say, you know, we're that neighborhood north of North Kenwood.
When we were initially looking at this house, on Zillow they had it listed as North Kenwood, which we thought was a bit of a stretch.
A little bit of a chin scratcher.
Yeah, I think they were trying to kind of just jump on the Kenwood bandwagon.
We wanted to have an identity. We wanted to have something that we could be proud of, but also that our neighbors could be proud of together.
We went into this just wanting to organize a neighborhood association, and we didn't realize how much it would change our lives for the better.
About a year ago, I joined up and became part of the core team reviving the neighborhood association, and as part of that, we decided to really start fresh, and we interviewed, asked neighbor input and talked about coming up with a new name.
I started doing some research and realized that we actually did have a name. We were Highland Grove neighborhood. Highland Grove was actually a much larger neighborhood, and we decided to split the neighborhood into two smaller neighborhoods. On the west side of 28th Street, a neighborhood formed called Station View, and on the east side of 28th Street, our neighborhood formed, and our neighbors voted to call it St. Pete Heights.
So St. Pete Heights is an amazing location, actually. It's pretty central. Our big intersections are 30th Ave North and 38th Ave North. We make up a kind of a perfect square in the center there, also from 275 over to 28th Street North.
The more people start to see the name, hear the name through things like signage, which we're working on now, flags and other merchandise. We just got our branding done by a local St. Pete artist.
I am the guy behind the St. Pete Heights branding project. I work with the committee closely to come up with a new brand identity that represents who they really are. From the beginning of the project, our goal was to create something that can represent the people of the neighborhood. as opposed to when you're working with a business, you're thinking about the customers in mind. In this case, we wanted to represent the community, the people, and some of the things that makes them unique. My job was to find a way to tell their story through a visual identity, through beautiful typography, colors, and something that is able to showcase their passion behind the love for the neighborhood.
People are going to have pride to be in this neighborhood. It's a new neighborhood. People don't necessarily know what St. Pete Heights is, probably never heard of it. Once they start seeing the logo on, signs, flags, shirts, things like that, it'll become more identifiable, and I feel like it'll bring more of a sense of community to the neighborhood.
The more they see these types of things, the more inclined they're going to be to care about their neighborhood and to want to feel invested in the community. It'll just be a domino effect where over time it will become bigger, better, and a place that people just love even more.
I can't wait to put that flag up in front of my house. I can't wait. It's gonna look really cool.
One of the things that we do in the neighborhood association is have care days. There are opportunities for the neighbors to come together and volunteer, oftentimes to beautify, clean up. It really can be anything. But the most recent one we did was a Drains to Bay project, where we put the signs that say Drains to Bay on the storm drains. We did every one in St. Pete Heights.
We had a day where we put signs that say drains to the bay on all of our storm drains, so people know that any water that go into the storm drains will wind up in the bay, so they're more careful about that.
When we do these care days, we're walking around the streets. Like, how often do you just walk around the streets of your neighborhood doing something like cleaning up? Or people notice that. Neighbors notice that and want to know, like, what are you guys doing? And then we get to talk about the neighborhood association. We even had one guy join in.
I would say it's very worth it. We've met so many incredible people in our neighborhood that we didn't even know live just doors down from us. Had it not been for the neighborhood association, had it not been for this initiative that we had, none of that would have been possible. And to me, those human connections are really what it's all about.
So Bobby, I have heard the origin story of your relationship with Jamie and how that kept you here, but I don't think I've ever heard why you wanted to start the studio.
Well, that's a very good question, but I think it stemmed most from, somebody told me this years later, that Jamie was just trying to find something for me to do. Because Dave Ellis and myself, we had not fully formed what the studio would be. And Jim was out looking for a building, found this place, and we were calling it a theater, but not necessarily. And I had never